The rain poured relentlessly over the city of New York, turning its usual vibrancy into a hazy blur of gray and gold. The bustling streets were streaked with water, and headlights gleamed faintly through the mist. Inside a sleek black sedan, Ethan Blake sat in the backseat, his sharp eyes scanning a digital blueprint on his tablet. The hum of the car's engine was muffled by the rhythmic drumming of rain against the windows. Ethan was a man of success, a renowned architect whose designs had shaped some of the city's most iconic landmarks. Yet, despite his achievements, there was an emptiness in his gaze, a restlessness he couldn't quite shake. As the car rolled to a stop at a red light, something outside caught his attention. On the rain-soaked sidewalk, a woman sat huddled beneath a drenched hood, clutching a cardboard sign that read, "Hungry, please help." Ethan's brow furrowed. Her figure seemed fragile, her dark hair plastered to her face. But it wasn't just her appearance that held his gaze. It was the sense of familiarity, the haunting feeling that he knew her. "Stop the car," Ethan said abruptly, his voice cutting through the silence. The driver hesitated, glancing back in the rearview mirror. "Sir, the light will turn green any second." "I said stop," Ethan repeated, more firmly this time. The car pulled to the side, and without a second thought, Ethan stepped out into the rain. The cold droplets soaked through his tailored suit, but he didn't care. He moved toward the woman, his heart pounding. As he approached, the woman looked up. Her gaunt face was shadowed by exhaustion, but her eyes, deep and sorrowful, struck him like a bolt of lightning. "Charlotte?" Ethan's voice trembled, the name falling from his lips like a whisper from the past. The woman's lips parted in shock, her expression wavering between disbelief and pain. Charlotte instinctively leaned back, her eyes clouded with suspicion and shame as she recognized Ethan. She lowered her head, pulling the soaked jacket tighter around herself, as if shielding herself from him. "No, you've got the wrong person," Charlotte said, her voice hoarse and shaky. "Charlotte, it's me, Ethan," he insisted, his gaze fixed on her face. "San Francisco, back when we were in that little town. Don't you remember?" Her grip on the cardboard tightened, and her eyes flickered with unease. "I don't need your help. I'm fine." Ethan crouched down to her level, uncaring that the rain was soaking through his expensive clothes. "You're not fine," he said gently but firmly. "Let me help you, Charlotte. You don't have to do this alone." Charlotte looked up at him, her eyes a mix of pain and insecurity. "You don't understand," she said, her voice nearly breaking. "Then let me understand," Ethan replied. "Let me buy you a meal, just one meal, please." There was a raw sincerity in his voice that made her hesitate. Finally, with a small nod, Charlotte relented. Ethan led her to a small cafe nearby. They sat at a cozy corner table, the dim light casting a warm glow over her weary face. He ordered food, and while they waited, he gently brought up memories of their past. "Do you remember those afternoons when we used to read under the tree behind the school?" Ethan smiled. "You always beat me at guessing the ending of the stories." Charlotte let out a faint laugh, but it quickly faded. "Those days are long gone, Ethan," she whispered, her eyes drifting to the coffee cup in front of her instead of meeting his. Ethan sat silently as Charlotte held the steaming cup of coffee, her hands trembling slightly from the cold. After a long pause, she sighed, her gaze drifting away from the cup to some distant point in the air. "Life changed a lot after you left," Charlotte began, her voice soft but laden with sadness. Ethan didn't interrupt, simply nodding gently to encourage her to continue. "After you left, everything crumbled. My dad trusted Victor, the man I thought I loved. He promised a bright future, a partnership to open a store, but it was all lies. Victor vanished, and with him went every penny my family had worked for, every hope my dad held on to." She stopped for a moment, taking a deep breath. "My dad couldn't handle the shock. He fell sick and passed away a few months later. My mom, she couldn't bear the grief. A year later, she was gone too." Her voice faltered, and Ethan could hear the weight of her sorrow in every word. He straightened his posture, his expression reflecting quiet empathy. "And then?" he asked gently. "And then?" Charlotte let out a bitter laugh. "There was nothing after that. I stayed in town, trying to hold things together, but I made the mistake of going back to Victor." He promised he'd changed, but it was all lies. He dragged me into debts, and when there was nothing left to take, he left me again. Ethan clenched his hands tightly on the table but kept his voice calm. So, you left town to come here? Charlotte nodded. I thought I could start over in New York, but this city isn't like the dreams I used to have. Without a degree, without connections, I quickly sank. I lost everything. She picked up the cup, her eyes distant, as if she were fighting back tears. That's why you saw me out there today. Ethan was quiet for a moment, his eyes filled with both sorrow and guilt. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. I wasn't there when you needed me. Charlotte looked at him, her eyes cold yet flickering with a trace of vulnerability. It's not your fault, Ethan. It's just life. Ethan didn't take his eyes off Charlotte as she recounted her story, every word leaving a mark on his heart. After the meal, he looked directly at her and said, "Let me help you, Charlotte. I can't let you keep living like this." Charlotte hesitated, her eyes filled with doubt. "You don't have to do this, Ethan. I don't want to be a burden to you." "You're not a burden," Ethan replied, his voice firm but gentle. "Just give me a chance to help you start over. One small step. That's all I'm asking." Reluctantly, Charlotte agreed. Ethan arranged for her to stay at a small but cozy hotel, ensuring she had a safe place to rest. But he didn't stop there. He decided to pursue her sincerely, step by step. In the days that followed, Ethan visited Charlotte frequently. He often brought little things from home, like warm apple pie, the kind she used to love. One afternoon, Ethan invited her to Central Park. They sat on a wooden bench overlooking the calm lake, soft rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds. "Remember," he smiled, pointing at a duck swimming by, "it's just like the time we fed the ducks as kids." Charlotte chuckled lightly, for the first time feeling a hint of ease after so many years. "Yeah, and you always scared them away." They also visited an art exhibit where Ethan shared stories about the buildings he had designed. Charlotte listened intently, feeling his passion and dedication to his craft for the first time. One day, Ethan handed her an old book. It was one they used to read together as kids, with a note tucked inside. "Don't forget, you're stronger than you think." Another time, he surprised her with a soft wool scarf. "You'll need this to keep warm in the winter," he said, his eyes full of care. Charlotte began to open up, but there was still hesitation in her heart. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked one evening as they sat by the window, watching the rain. "Because I want to," Ethan answered simply. "Because you deserve it." Charlotte started to feel her heart, frozen by years of pain, slowly thawing. Ethan's sincerity sparked a hope she thought she'd lost forever. Even so, every night she found herself wondering, do I really deserve him? Despite the hope Ethan had helped Charlotte rediscover over the past few days, deep down her insecurities and fears remained. Every time he left, she told herself that she didn't deserve his kindness or his efforts. One morning, as pale sunlight streamed through the hotel window, Charlotte sat at the small desk, her trembling hand clutching a pen. Before her lay a blank sheet of paper where she poured her heart into a final message to Ethan. "Ethan, thank you for everything you've done for me. But I can't let you keep carrying me out of the darkness I've created for myself. You don't deserve this weight. I don't want to hurt you by dragging you into my mess. I need to face this on my own. Please, don't come after me. Charlotte." As she placed the note on the small desk, Charlotte lingered for a moment, her fingers trembling. She turned to glance around the room. Ethan's thoughtful touches were everywhere, from the scarf he had bought her to the small vase of daisies he had brought the day before. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered to herself, "He deserves someone whole, someone who isn't broken like me." Her heart ached with every step as she walked out of the hotel. The farther she went, the heavier her chest felt, but she convinced herself it was for the best. "I love him too much to ruin his life," she thought, clenching her fists to stop herself from turning back. When Ethan arrived at the hotel that afternoon, Charlotte was gone. In her place, he found the folded note. As he read it, his hands clenched the paper tightly, his expression a mix of heartbreak and frustration. "She couldn't have gone far," he muttered to himself before rushing out of the hotel, stepping into the bustling streets of New York. One place came to his mind, the riverside park where they used to talk about their dreams as kids. His heart told him she might be there. When Ethan arrived, he saw Charlotte sitting on a bench, her empty gaze fixed on the shimmering river as the evening light reflected off the water. "Charlotte," he called her name, his voice warm but urgent. She turned around, her eyes glistening with tears. "Ethan, I'm sorry," she whispered. Ethan slowed his steps as he approached Charlotte. He could see her shoulders trembling slightly, tears still streaming down her face. "You don't need to apologize," Ethan said, his voice gentle yet firm. He sat down beside her, ignoring the chill of the bench. "I'm not here to force you into anything, but I'm not going to let you carry all this pain alone." Charlotte turned her face away, staring at the shimmering river below. "Ethan, I can't do this. I can't make you carry this burden. I'm not worth it." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady the ache in his chest. "Charlotte, you've spent so long carrying this pain by yourself, convincing yourself that you had to be alone, but that's not what love is. Love isn't about being perfect or deserving. It's about standing together even when the world feels too heavy. Let me stand with you." Ethan paused, searching her tear-green eyes. "I know you've been hurt, Charlotte. I know you've been made to feel like you're not enough, like your past defines you. But to me, you are so much more than that pain. You're the girl who always believed in happy endings, who made me laugh under the trees behind our school, who taught me that life could be beautiful." Charlotte's breath hitched, her fingers tightening around the pendant he had given her. "But I'm not that girl anymore, Ethan," she whispered. Ethan leaned closer, his voice unwavering. "No, you're even stronger now, and I don't care how broken you think you are. I'm here for all of it, the pain, the healing, and every moment in between. Let me love you, Charlotte. Just let me." Charlotte shook her head slightly, her tears falling onto her hands. "But my past, what I've done, I can't forget it." Slowly, Ethan pulled a small pendant out of his pocket, a simple token he'd kept since their youth. He gently placed it in her hand. "This is something I've held on to even when I thought we'd never meet again," he said softly. "It's a symbol of what we had, and now it can be a symbol of what we'll build." Charlotte stared at the pendant, her fingers trembling as they brushed over its surface. She could feel the weight of Ethan's love for her, and for the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope ignite in her heart. "You've never been a burden to me, Charlotte," Ethan continued. "You're the one who taught me how to love, who taught me how to believe, and I'm ready to start over with you." Charlotte met his gaze, her tear-gripped eyes now glowing with a light he hadn't seen in so long. "Ethan, thank you," she whispered. They sat together by the river, the quiet between them no longer a gap but a bond. Time passed, and Charlotte's darkest days gradually faded into the past. With Ethan's help, she began to rebuild her life one step at a time. Ethan found her a small job at a bookstore nearby, a quiet and cozy space where she could work at her own pace. Charlotte also enrolled in evening classes, determined to improve her skills and regain her independence. One evening, after finishing her class, Charlotte stepped outside to find Ethan waiting for her, holding a small bouquet of daisies. "I thought you might like these," he said with a warm smile. Charlotte laughed, feeling a peace in her heart she hadn't known in years. "You always know just what I need." A few weeks later, Ethan invited Charlotte to dinner at a quaint rooftop restaurant. From their table, the lights of New York stretched endlessly, twinkling like stars. "I planned this evening for a reason," Ethan said, placing his hand near hers on the table. Charlotte looked at him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Ethan pulled out a small box and opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Charlotte, you've endured the darkest days of your life. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known, and I want to be by your side, not just now, but forever." Tears welled up in Charlotte's eyes as she nodded. "Ethan, I never thought I could find happiness again. Thank you for never giving up on me." 1 year after the proposal, Ethan and Charlotte officially began their journey as husband and wife. Their wedding was modest yet perfect, filled with love and meaning. The small garden, where spring flowers bloomed under the gentle sun, became the witness to the reunion of two hearts once broken, now healed by love. Charlotte wore a simple yet elegant white gown, radiating a quiet beauty that Ethan had always adored. As she walked down the aisle strewn with petals, she couldn't stop the tears of joy from falling. Her eyes locked onto Ethan, standing at the end of the path, his gaze steady and full of a silent promise. "I'm here, forever." "You're breathtaking," Ethan whispered when she finally stood before him. When they exchanged vows, Charlotte's voice trembled with emotion. "Ethan, you've given me a reason to believe in tomorrow. And today, I want to give you my heart, forever." As Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, he spoke just one simple truth. "You are my everything." The applause from their loved ones filled the garden, but in that moment, it felt like the world held only the two of them. Years later, their home became a sanctuary of love and laughter. Charlotte, who once carried the weight of so much pain, was now a gentle and joyful mother. One summer afternoon, Ethan and Charlotte sat on their porch, hands intertwined as they watched their daughter Sophie darting across the garden with their playful puppy. Sophie stopped mid-run, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Daddy, look! I found a butterfly!" she exclaimed, holding out her tiny hands as if to show them. Ethan smiled, setting down his coffee. "Let's go see it together," he said, taking her hand. Charlotte watched from the porch, a soft smile gracing her lips. Her heart swelled with gratitude as she watched Ethan kneel in the grass with Sophie, showing her how to let the butterfly go. Later that evening, as they tucked Sophie into bed, Charlotte sat beside her, brushing her curls back gently. "Did you have fun today, sweetheart?" she asked. Sophie said sleepily. "Daddy said we can build a treehouse soon. Will you help too, Mommy?" Charlotte blinked back tears, nodding. "Of course, baby. We'll build it together." As Sophie drifted off to sleep, Charlotte turned to Ethan, her voice soft but full of conviction. "I never thought I'd have this. A family. A home. Thank you, Ethan, for everything." Ethan kissed her forehead gently. "You deserve it all, Charlotte, and I'll make sure every day feels like this." "Ethan, do you remember?" Charlotte smiled softly, turning to him. "We used to sit like this, dreaming about the future. I never thought it would actually come true." Ethan squeezed her hand gently, his eyes filled with affection. "Because you deserve every bit of happiness, Charlotte, and I'll make sure every day is full of it." Charlotte knelt down, wrapping her arms around her daughter, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Ethan placed a hand on their shoulders, his smile warm as he looked at the two people he loved most. This wasn't just a family. It was healing, hope, and a new beginning, built on the foundation of a love that never wavered.